Hi there, it's Jen from scribblinggrace.com. Today I'm doing a watercolor sunset with mountains tutorial. So last week we did a acrylic ocean sunset tutorial, and I thought it would be fun to do a watercolor sunset this week. And since last week we did an ocean, this week we're going to do mountains. So both of these sunset tutorials are just so much fun, so I hope that you'll check that last week's acrylic tutorial out and continue watching this video. So I am starting off with a big round paintbrush and a yellow color from my Kuretake Kansei Tambi watercolor set. It looks orange in the pan, but it actually, when it's out on the page, it looks more yellow. So I'm starting off by just swiping in horizontal lines, sometimes a little wiggly line, and I'm just getting the paint on the page. This is my big thing. If you are new around here, just get the paint on the page. I think get over the fear and just get it on. So vertical swipes, you can see I'm not necessarily swiping big, long lines. I'm just kind of moving my brush back and forth. Some lines are a little bit small. You can see there's still a little bit of white space here and there. So you can see smaller swipes. Some will be a little bit longer. And this is with my orange color now. So I'm adding the orange and I'm letting it overlap some of my yellow. And I'm just going to let the watercolor do the work here. The thing about acrylics is that you have to do the work to get those colors to blend. But with the watercolors, they'll kind of blend on their own. So just overlap the colors a little bit and they'll start to blend together. And I'm going to let a little bit of that orange peek out over the top that is not overlapped with that yellow. And now I'm adding in my pink. And again, letting my pink go into the other colors as well. And this is real time. So you can tell that I'm working pretty quickly because I want to work fast enough that the paint isn't going to dry before I'm able to add the next color. Otherwise, they're not going to blend together as well. You'll also see right now that you can see kind of those vertical rivets, vertical lines that I'm just painted back over them just now with more of a dry brush. I didn't pick up any more water and I just kind of took the drier brush and went back over those kind of rivets that happened because I'm working in a journaling Bible, which has much thinner paper. If you're working on watercolor paper, it's going to be a different experience because you're not going to get little pools or wrinkles on the page. So it can be trickier to work in a journaling Bible because you have to be more aware and try to control the paint a little bit more. If you do get pools of water, which will probably happen depending on how much water that you use, just keep a paper towel handy or a Q-tip handy and dab it up. You'll see me do that in a little bit. So now I added my purple to the top. So I went yellow, orange, pink, purple. And then I'm just kind of adding more color as I see fit. So I wanted a little bit more pink here, a little bit more of the orange here and there. Again, just the vertical lines. It's not totally perfect. Here I am dabbing up some of that color that I felt got away from me a little bit. And I'm just going to continue adding color until I feel like it looks good. You can work in multiple layers, so if you want, you could always let the page dry and then add some more color on top of it. But I'm just going to continue adding the color. My page isn't completely dry, but I feel like that'll help the colors to blend. See, adding a little bit more purple to blend in some colors a little bit better. I also find that going back over some sections with just a clean, damp brush will help soften out some lines that you might have, like that tend to happen really with the Bible paper. You get those pools and the little lines. So going back over kind of the edges, I don't know if I'm really explaining this very well, but if you've painted in your Bible before, you may have a better understanding of what I mean. But you can get sharp lines, and so just go back over those with a damp paintbrush and soften those up if you need to. Okay, so that's pretty much it for my sky. You can see my page did wrinkle. There are some little pools of color, but I personally think that that makes Bible journaling so special. I think it looks really pretty, and I personally love the crinkly pages. If you don't like crinkly pages, you can wait till it dries and then iron them out. But I do find that the crinkly pages tend to flatten back out on their own after a couple weeks with the Bible closed. They tend to flatten back out. So now I'm going to dry this up with my heat gun. The heat gun just dries the page super duper fast. You don't need it. You could totally let it dry, air dry, or you could use a blow dryer as well. The thing about the blow dryer is that you have to be careful not to be pushing around any pools of water that you may have, because the blow dryer pushes more forceful air than the heat gun does. But you want to make sure that that sky is totally dry before adding the mountains. And we're going to add 2 mountains here, or maybe technically 3, but two layers of mountains. So this is my first layer of mountains, and I'm doing just a light gray. So I'm actually using black and dipped my brush in water and just kind of tapped it on my pan of watercolor just so I could get a very small amount of that black color, so that it'll be gray. And I did test it out on that. You can see the little piece of paper that's underneath the page that I'm working on. I just kind of swiped it on that piece of paper to make sure that I'm gonna get a gray color and not a black, and then I put it on my page. So I'm just adding a little bit more pigment as I see fit for this layer of these mountains, and they're just triangle shapes, so nothing super fancy here. And I also want to point out that I'm using this big giant round paintbrush for this page here today. You could technically use a flat paintbrush as well, especially for the sky. The paintbrush that you use doesn't really matter. For the mountains, you want to use more of the tip of the paintbrush so that you'll get the nice sharp lines for the mountains. But to fill them in, it doesn't necessarily matter. And so now I'm using much more pigments. So I really swiped my brush around in that black color to pick up a lot more pigment than I was originally. And now I'm adding this second layer of a mountain. So this is going to be the mountain that's closer to me. So if you were to look in the distance, usually the mountains farther away are lighter, and the ones closer to you are darker. So that's exactly what I'm doing here. And you could do a different color for the mountains as well, but I feel like the black just kind of makes it easy. You can also tell that I purposely put this dark black mountain over to the side because I wanted to be able to read all my text, which is another thing. I know a lot of you guys don't like to cover up the text. You could absolutely just do this in the margin, like literally just envision this just in the margin and not over the text. You could totally do that. You could also use an interleave Bible or make a tip-in like I did last week for the acrylic sunset tutorial. We made a tip-in. Or of course you could do this outside of your Bible completely. So there's lots of options. You don't have to go over the text if you don't want to. But I will point out that I purposely tried to keep my colors light enough that I could still read all the text, and I can. So that's why I moved the dark mountain over to the side to make sure that I would be able to read that text, since that dark mountain is the darkest color on my page. So now I added some little birds, just some little V shapes with the very tip of my paintbrush to add a little bit of a little fun detail. And now I'm adding my lettering. So I am working on Psalm 103 verse 12 today, which says, "As far as the east is from the west, so far does he remove our transgressions from us." And I thought that was a really great verse and a fun one to do a sunset on as well. That's the ESV version because I am using my ESV journaling Bible, but I did actually write out the NIV version, which is, "As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed his transgressions from us, our transgressions from us." So basically it's just replacing does with has, but I liked the NIV version, so I thought I would write that one out. Okay, so I am doing faux calligraphy here. I'm using my Uniball Signo gel pen. It's just this nice white gel pen, my favorite kind. And I just wrote out my verse in cursive, and then I'm going back over that cursive, and anytime my pen is going downward, I am thickening up that line. Um, so it's a pretty simple technique, and I do have a full tutorial on creating faux calligraphy just like this. It's called Faux Calligraphy 3 Easy Steps to Hand Lettering or something like that. I'll put the link to it in the blog post that goes along with this video at scribblinggrace.com/watercolor sunset. And that link will be in the bio, in the description below. And I'll also put all of the links to the supplies that I use and other helpful tutorials, everything that you need to create a page just like this in that blog post, scribblinggrace.com/watercolor sunset. And here I ran out of room at transgressions. So I actually wrote out this verse in pencil before adding the pen, and I ran out of room at transgressions with the pencil, and I thought, it's fine, I'll just fix it when I go over it with the ink, and totally failed on that and still ran out of room with the pen. But that's okay. I'm not gonna let that little mistake get me down, because this isn't about creating the most beautiful piece of art. It's really just about worshiping God and spending time in the Word. So that little mistake is not noticeable. So mistakes happen. Don't let them get you down. If you caught that back side of the page, there's no bleed through or anything, and I do not prep my pages with anything. So again, scribblinggrace.com/watercolor sunset, and you'll find all the fun stuff that you need to create this page. All right. Much love, many blessings. Bye.